and thank you for joining us on Daybreak. It's a beautiful Monday morning, the start of a fresh week, and we're super excited to be here. We're going to be here from now up until 9 a.m. and it promises to be a very, very interesting ride. I'm Dasha and Husseina Usman, and you're live on Trust TV in the Federal Capital Territory.
Hello, good morning and welcome. It is Trust TV's Daybreak right here on Trust TV this beautiful Monday morning. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
All right, with that, we'll take a look at the highlights at this hour. Abba Gida Gida starting on a wrong note, says Ganduje.
Zamfara abduction, bandits kidnap 2 female Gusau University students.
Free trade zones generates 35.1 billion naira customs duty in 2021, says NEPSA.
And now the details. Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State has alleged that the governor-elect Abba Kabir Yusuf is starting on a wrong note. The war of words started between the duo after the governor-elect issued an advisory on the government's lands and buildings. Ganduje, who found it strange, warned the governor-elect that he was still in charge of the state. He said to avoid confusion, the incoming governor should wait until he is sworn into office. But the governor-elect issued a fresh advisory hours after Ganduje's reprimand. He had asked lenders to get his approval before granting any loan to Kanu.
Away from that story, suspected armed bandits have abducted 2 female students of Federal University Gusau in Zamfara State after they broke into a rented hostel of the university. The armed criminals raided Sabongida village in Bungudu on Sunday, abducting 2 female students of microbiology department of the university after breaking into a rented female hostel of the university, and this was after they overpowered and locked up the 2 civilian guards, dispossessing them of their handsets. Spokesman of the State Police Command, SP Muhammad Shehu, said the police tactical team moved to the scene, but the hoodlums had already fled with the victims to a yet-to-be-identified destination. Now, he said the Commissioner of Police had deployed reinforcements to complement the ongoing rescue operation.
The Nigeria Export Processing Zones Authority, NEPSA, says that the Free Trade Zones, FTZs, scheme generated a total of 35.1 billion naira for the government as custom duty in 2021. The authority said the sum of 408.3 million was also remitted as pay-as-you-earn taxes in 2021. Speaking in Abuja on Sunday, the managing director of NEPSA, Professor Adesoji Adesuba, said it ensured the effective generation of customs duty and administration of taxes applicable in zones operation. Section 19 of the NEPSA Act mandates FTZs to enterprise to file returns for statistics and data, while Section 8 stipulates that enterprises operating in zones should be exempted from federal, state and local government taxes. However, they are under obligation to pay all deferred taxes and duties when they extend their businesses to the customs territories. The NEPSA boss further said that the scheme also generated a total of 19,125 employments in 2021.
All right, with that, we wrap up highlights at this hour. Now let's take a look at some more stories. One common denominator around mechanic workshops is the number of abandoned vehicles found at the workshop. Now, although many are there for repairs, others who have been fixed have also been found to be abandoned by their owners to the extent that they become dilapidated and reduced to scrap. Now, Jimmy Adzande visited the popular Kanshio Mechanic Village in Makudi and files in this report.
Wishing to have vehicles to ease their movement, others had acquired some in the past, but for different reasons abandoned them at the mechanic villages, on the streets, office complexes or residential homes. Many blame the situation and the tough economic downturn in the country amongst other reasons.
Like one what they did for me, that motor was in Alidi for some time, and that man called me, I don't go and bring the vehicle from Alidi today. Since when I bring that car, come back and for this mechanic, I don't see the man till more than 3-4 months, almost 5 months. I called them and I say, I don't have money to come and pay the car. If I have money, I will take care of the car. When I finish, I give you the bill. I know I was not having money to take care of the car until now. The car is still in mechanic.
If you can see, many of them pack. Lose, I'm coming. 2-3 days, we can't feed them. So I'll not be their fault. That the way things be. Because the way things be, even if they pay salary, they will say no salary. Before the salary go come, they don't collect money left and right.
Okay? For the first reason, some are because of money, some like some of them, they leave the vehicle because find it fast. Some it's because of money.
Sometimes people borrow their vehicle for repairs, and when we pieces it, we discover what is the problem. They will not have the money to change the parts, and that is why they abandon some of the vehicle in the site.
They also spoke of the challenge posed by the vehicles due to lack of space in the workshops and the security implication for abandoned cars.
Worry to talk to the man to come and carry the car out because it's blocking my shop. There's no vacancy for this kind of car, and I'm paying security money every time I want the car. All this, if you join up, then come, the man come now, give an appeal, you think that maybe you are calling him money. All the security, this car, park, we used to pay for it.
Nothing I can do. Even if I tell them to come and push the car out, where there is no money, even the money to tow the car to their house, man, another problem. So there is nothing I can do. The best thing for me to do, they arranged them closer so that my shop can't close.
For others, the situation is made worse when the owners pass and leave their vehicles without period notification to mechanics or family members of the deceased. On the flip side, some view it as advertorial for workshops, which indicates expertise in fixing cars by the operators of the shops.
And health researchers say that cervical cancer is 100% preventable, but it's claiming the lives of women and young girls daily, making it one of the greatest threats to women's health. To this end, the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research is encouraging young medical experts to come up with ideas that can address the problem. Now, Victoria Tokolo sends us this report from Lagos, as presented from our studio.
Health researchers have said that cervical cancer is the second most common cancer among young girls and women in our society, and 12,000 women in Nigeria are diagnosed with the disease, and 8,000 die from it yearly. To put a stop to this end, global health experts, in collaboration with the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, have gathered young medical experts to train and help come up with ideas that will be acceptable for women and girls to be vaccinated and encourage women to go for screening that will support and bring solution to the disease among women and girls in the society. Speaking to journalists at the Young Expert Ideas Solution, the Director of Research at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, Professor Oliver Ezechi, aired his view on the causes of cervical cancer alongside Professor Juliet Ezepu, Principal Investigator for Girls and Women from St. Louis University, on why the need on young people ideas.
Find the cause of cervical cancer, and that's human papillomavirus. That's what causes virtually all cervical cancer. Once you vaccinate the young girls who are between 9 to 15 before they're exposed to that virus, you prevent them from having the virus. And for those ones who are already above, women who are already above that age, you screen them for cervical cancer. What it means is that we'll join other committee of nations to eliminate cervical cancer by 2030.
The goal is to make sure that there are no Angies anymore in Nigeria. We want to ensure that we work with Nigerian girls, with Nigerian women to end cervical cancer together. We can only do it with you leading the way, not the experts telling people what to do. Because there are many people doing screening, there are many people doing vaccination, but yet only 10% of girls have been, only 10% of women have been screened. Only 14% of girls have been vaccinated. Our goal is to change that, and we have to change that with Nigerian girls and Nigerian women leading the way.
The low use of cervical cancer prevention services among girls and women in Nigeria can be traced to several reasons. Dr. Okechukwu Unwachukwu from the Federal Ministry of Health in Nigeria aired his view on the reason alongside young experts on how they intend to drive the message to the society.
In taking steps to ensure that it is eliminated in Nigeria, starting from what we call primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention.
We're going to meet with the community leaders, and then with the help of the community leaders, we'll be able to gather these women. You know, we are sure and we all know how these unions work in the marketplace. There's usually a union of market women, they have their leaders. Once you're able to talk with their leaders and the leaders agree with whatever you have to say, they are able to talk with their people, and then by the time we're able to bring those people together, we have been taught, we have been enlightened, we have been sensitized about this cervical cancer, and we are simply going to replicate the same learning, the same thing that we've been taught to these women. We're just going to educate them as we have been taught.
However, researchers have stated that human papilloma virus vaccines have been found to reduce the risk of cervical cancer up to 90%.
All right, we'll sincerely hope that, a solution to the problem called cancer is found with immediate urgency. Now let's move on to more stories. The Ariwa Consultative Forum is calling for the arrest and prosecution of anyone or persons found canvassing for an interim government. The Northern Socio-Cultural Group also said the Nigerians will resist any attempt by individuals or groups to foist an interim government on the country. Chairman, Kwara State Chapter of the Forum, Dr. Muhammad Gali, made the position of the organization known during an interview with newsmen in Ilorin on the sideline of a Ramadan lecture. Dr. Gali added that the proponents of interim government should be arrested and charged for treason, describing the attempt as the height of insubordination. He wondered why some few individuals will want to truncate democracy simply because they lost to the election.
It's very, very surprising that anybody will contest election and win in other region other than his own to that extent, so comfortably. Nigeria has spoken, and we are speaking so loudly. It is so sad for anybody now to say that anyway, anybody, however highly placed, found advocating or supporting any interim government in any guise will be met with a very, very ferocious opposition, however highly placed, whoever the person is. And I can assure you that Nigerians are too loud in this direction. Anybody who does that should be arrested and prosecuted, because that is the height of, for treason, because this is a height of insubordination for the country. We cannot, nobody will accept it.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has been told to expedite action in delivering key projects that would add value to the socio-economic well-being of Nigerians before he hands over to the next government on May 29th this year. Speaking exclusively to Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman, a public policy analyst, Dr. Hussein Tukur lists such projects to include Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Highway, the Second Niger Bridge, among others.
I expect the present administration, with some of the programs and projects it is carrying out, to precipitate and pursue them to the logical conclusion, especially projects that are nearing conclusion, especially infrastructure like the Kano-Kaduna-Abuja road, like the Second Niger Bridge and other projects. And there are also programs that are not projects, but they are programs that are being pursued. I also expect them to make sure that some of them are completed or about to be completed, so that immediately the next administration come in, it will easily conclude them.
All right, with this, we'll take a quick breather, and when we return, it'll be time for the newspaper review.
institution where you find that a person look at the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now we'll take a look at the headlines or the stories on the front page of the national dailies. We'll begin with Daily Trust newspaper, and the lead story here talks about ripples over Obi's religious war phone conversation with Oyedepo. We have writers here that says leaked audio authentic, says Labour Party. It is fake, says Obi Dirty Media Office. I've never campaigned for politicians, Living Faith Bishop. Obi's presidential ambition dead, says Tinubu campaign. We're studying the situation, says CAN, NSCIA and JNI. Weaponizing religion dangerous, says Sheikh Khalid and Namani, also Professor Kari. If you want to read up more on that story, you find it on pages 4 and 6. At the top of the page there, we have FCTA sends 217 beggars back to Katsina, Kano, Kebbi, others. Over 80,000 Nigerians require heart surgeries every year, says experts. Bandits kill 7 farmers, abduct 26 in Niger, pick 2 students at Varsity Hostel in Zamfara State. Details of that on page 39. Furor over Kano Governor-elect's public advisory. We also have 133 billion naira hangers to give way for MMIA apron expansion. Post-election violence, police arrest 17 more suspects in Zamfara State. And the federal government deploys 12 billion naira fire trucks to Lagos, Kano and Abuja airports. These are some of the stories on Daily Trust newspaper.
Next newspaper we're looking at is the Punch newspaper, and it carries the story on the front page. End of tenure. Buhari Osibanjo, 28 governors, ministers to begin asset declaration. It comes with writers here that says outgoing public office holders must declare assets by May 29th. That is according to a CCB official. And President-elect Tinubu Shettima, 28 incoming governors, get CCB form this month. Details of that story can be found on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Moving towards the bottom of the front page there, Pope Kagame preach love service as Christians observe Palm Sunday. Ramadan, why the aged may abstain from fasting. And that story can be found on page 20. 22-year-old Ogun lady found dead in room, boyfriend held. And tanker fire worsens Lagos-Ibadan expressway gridlock. Moving towards the top of the front page there above the masthead, Chinese loans rise by 209% under Buhari. Details of that can be found on page 27. And Nigeria Exchange suspends Sterling Bank share trading. And you can find that story on page 33. Finally, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, FG to demolish Lagos Airport jet hangars April 15th. And you can find details of that story on page 30.
All right, up next is the Nation newspaper, and we'll start from the top of the page there. Why PDP's NEC BOT governors can't save IU. We also have investors made 1.6 trillion naira gains in first quarter. 25-year-old South African wins Big Brother Titan $100,000. We also have Pope Francis urges all to unite, pray for peace. Just below the nameplates there, Chelsea, Leicester sack coaches. Buhari, Tinubu hail Anthony Joshua, and these are in sports. Governors, the lead story here says governors NFIU on collision course over cash withdrawal. A writer says you can't spend cash, agency tells helmsman of states. We also have China loans to Africa transparent. Trump flies to New York for arraignment. Federal government borrowed 3.17 trillion naira in 3 months. How proceeds from petrol subsidy removal should be used, says MAN LCCI list options. And on the footnotes there, we have cholera infected 922, killed 32 in 9 weeks, says NCDC. These are some of the stories on the Nation.
Next, we'll take a look at this day newspaper. This is major story on the front page. Tinubu begins team building, considers Gbaja Biamila chief of staff. And it comes with writers here that says Wale Edun Bagudu also in high consideration for key roles. Shoyinka advises President-elect to either restructure Nigeria or fail. Insists nation won't cease demanding change. Moving towards the top of the front page, there is a story. Falana, President can't withhold assent to constitution alteration bills. And the writer here says no president must sign. Justice Okeke ruled in 2010. And at the very top of the front page there, Reuters survey. At about 1.6 million barrels per day, Nigeria's oil production was OPEC's biggest increase in March. And expert urges the next government to place independent, powerful regulator for oil and gas industry. Says regulator in mode of CBN, NCC needed to strengthen oil sector activities for increased foreign exchange earnings. And Wike's police arrested APC lawyers filing petitions in Rivers. Cole alleges, and that is a story on page 43. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of this day newspaper.
All right, well, with that, we'll move on to the Guardian newspaper. And we start from the top of the page there. 28 women die daily of cervical cancer in Nigeria. Details of that on page 3. Investors gain 2.54 trillion naira in first quarter as market dams political risks. How underfunding abuse mar master plans in universities, polytechnics. We also have ICC's arrest warrant on Putin and issues of enforceability. The lead story here talks about the religious war. Obi's leaked phone call with Oyedepo raises dust. And we have writers that says leaked audio on Obi Oyedepo deep fake, says LP campaign. Okonkwo audio taken out of context. Obi spokesman blames NCC for leaked call. We also have I have never campaigned for any politician, says Oyedepo. And Namani says Obi introduced religious ethnic politics. Now, Pope celebrates Palm Sunday Mass after hospital stay, defends the abandoned, and Kosi wins first BB Titans. These are some of the stories on the Guardian newspaper.
Next, we'll take a look at the Nigerian Tribune and the major story on the front page. Leaked phone talk between Obi Oyedepo causes furore. And the writers here that says it is mischief, subterfuge, a deep fake. That is Obi Dirty Campaign Council. I have never campaigned for anybody or spoken on anybody's behalf, says Oyedepo. And Obi's desire to be president has died a natural death. That is according to Festus Keyamo. Unauthorized wiretapping of private telephone conversations worrisome, says Ogundamisi. Now, those are the writers supporting the front page, the major story on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Moving on to other news now. Nigerians will not cease demanding restructuring. That is according to Shoyinka. Obedient passenger to appear before Abuja Airport Magistrate today. And NDLA declares prophetess celebrity couple wanted over seized illicit drugs. Rivers Police explain detention of election materials after release of lawyers, and arrest of lawyers an aberration. Proof Nigeria is dysfunctional, says this is according to lawyers themselves. Moving towards the top of the front page there, governors, CBN, EFCC, ICPC, FIRS meet on Tuesday on security votes, cashless policy. And finally, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, why EFCC was involved in 2023 general election. That is according to Power. Details of that story can be found on page 25.
All right, up next is Leadership newspaper. And on Leadership, from the top of the page there, we have bandits attack Niger communities, kill 13, abduct scores. We already have innovators sue INEC for 77 billion naira over e-voting copyright theft. We also have new Lagos Airport Terminal, federal government to demolish $300 million aviation facilities. Governors meet EFCC, ICPC, CBN over security vote tomorrow. Police obey court judgment, release 67 vehicles to Shiite members. Agora policy to federal government, fortify anti-corruption measures. We also have the lead story here that talks about still the leaked election phone call of Peter Obi. So with this, we wrap up this particular paper.
Next, we'll take a look at the Business Day newspaper, and the major headline on the front page reads, a big story, losers trump gainers in Nigeria's Naira redesign. Fintechs gain as CBN Bank's customers lose. And still talking about the Business Day, Nigeria stocks break 4-month rally after elections. Lagos, 4 others, owe 34% of state's 5.34 trillion naira domestic debt. Leadway becomes first insurer to cross 100 billion premium income. And these are the major stories on the front page of the Business Day newspaper this morning.
And with that, we're done reeling out some of these stories on the front pages of the national dailies. And with that, we'll, introduce our guest. This is a constant person talking about Mukhtar Suleiman. He is a political affairs analyst. Good morning.
I feel like it's important to always introduce me. Good morning.
In as much as you come in every Monday, almost every Monday. It's nice to have you here, by the way. Always.
Nice to have you too.
All right, so let's start with the lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper and almost on every other newspaper, talking about the leak audio phone call of Peter Obi and Bishop David Oyedepo. If you had a chance to listen to it, can you just give us your take about it?
At first, when I saw the video earlier yesterday, the audio rather, when I heard it, I listened to it with some level of apprehension, because I was like, we know how tech has actually grown. So to say that this was an actual conversation, you have to be a bit more careful with how you see things online. So I was like, I'm sure that this is just a political game. So only fast forward a few hours later, Kenneth Okonkwo came in and confirmed that the audio was legit, but it was taken out of context. Now, however the context, whatever it is, I think to some high level that was really wrong, owing to the kind of campaign that he ran. And to say things like this is a religious war and all of that was a bit disheartening and sickening to hear. So I'm a comms person. I don't think Kenneth Okonkwo did a good thing with the way he approached the issue. I understand the level of honesty you want to give, but then you have to use some sense of discernment, especially when it's a very tricky angle. But that said, my major concern beyond the audio is now who wiretapped his phone. To what extent was that wiretap influential in the entire electoral process? So that would be my major concern, because I know that he didn't record himself and leaked it. I know that the bishop did not do that. And that was a wiretap. That was not a recording outside of the phone call. It was a recording inside of the phone call. So my question would be, who did that? To what extent did they do that? To what extent did they deploy that said technology that was used? And how did it influence our electoral process? Because now it opens a lot of questions and a lot of, we Nigerians need answers.
But if certain members of the Labour Party camp are saying there is a deep fake, that it was something generated by artificial intelligence and the rest of it, and maybe that's why they're not making any noise about it being wiretapped, because they actually believe it was a deep fake.
Well, if it was a deep fake, I think the spokesperson for the campaign should actually know that. So if the spokesperson for the way Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo made that tweet, he did it like he was present there when that call was made. So if you're there's a difference when something comes off surprising, there's how you react. When it doesn't, there's how you react. That didn't come off surprising to him. It didn't even sound like somebody told him that. It sounded like he was physically present when that call happened, and he was just trying to make a clarification. I read the tweet, the thread he did. So saying it's a deep fake at this point and peddling deep fake at this point doesn't really make sense anymore. It's already, for me, I think it's already confirmed that it was actually true.
But it's like they're doubling down on that.
Oh, well, it's too late. That's what I'm saying. It's too late to do that. The moment that tweet came out, Pandora's box opened. And it was whatever damage control they wanted to do at that time, it was a bit late to do it, because now they have to do reactive measures. They have to go into reactive measures and not proactive measures anymore.
But, the way it's actually making it look, a lot of people have actually come out to, say what he did was wrong and everything. But I think, from history has actually had it that a lot of politicians actually come out, and use religion and ethnicity, to push the agenda for when it comes to politics.
Peter Obi ran a campaign of two wrongs do not make a right. That's the kind of campaign he ran. He ran on the mantra of, oh, we need to change the outcome of the Nigerian polity. And for you to be seen, for this to come out now, and then it's now like, oh, you're not different from every other person. It sort of speaks very poorly of the kind of campaign that he ran and his person as a whole. It's unfortunate that I have to say this because if you notice, I try as much as possible not to speak to the person of any politician as much as I can, but it's really, really sad that this is the reality we have now, and it interrogates the entirety of his intent when he was running. Because we have a video of Oyedepo himself saying in one of his previous services that he doesn't campaign for anybody, he doesn't push for anybody and whatnot, but only for that phone call to also debunk that, where he's saying that he was going to push for him in the Southwest, he's going to talk to people in the Southwest. So it's just, I don't know, it's just heartbreaking. I'm still trying to process it because one of the reasons I would have wanted him to win was because I felt like he was going to be the catalyst that would change the system. He was coming with a different platform compared to what we already have. And only for us to fight, maybe this one thing might not be, I'm not going to use one thing to judge the entirety of who he is, but this one thing is significant because it has always been at the fore of our politics. And this was one thing he said we don't need anymore, that he wanted to break the wheel for what this kind of narratives actually peddle. So it's just disappointing.
All right, well, moving now slightly away from that, we've actually had across newspapers this morning about a meeting that's going to take place between governors and, of course, the CBN, the FIRS, the EFCC, talking about security votes and, of course, cashless policy. Now, the issue of security votes has generated so much controversy over the years, most especially with the era of insecurity and the rest of it. A lot of people believe that monies are being given to state governors, they've been voting these monies, and we're not really seeing anything effective happening. So, I mean, like, those monies spent on security votes are not justified.
I've always said that one of the most profitable business is war and insecurity. Usually one of the most profitable business. And it's quite unfortunate that the way the security vote system has been structured in Nigeria has been in such a way that doesn't really, let's say, bode well for the benefit of Nigerians. It is why for us at the lab where I work, one of our key focus this year is to focus on procurement, just to see how that concept of value for money for governance is actually gotten and how it translates to the betterment of Nigerians and their well-being. But it doesn't really speak for security votes because it's one of the most uninterrogated side of the budget. We don't even know how much security votes are. Nobody really knows how much it is. So I do not envy the new president-elect, really, because if you see how much issues we have and then you demystify it into smaller bits, you get to understand that Nigeria is on the precipice of, like, I don't say failing, I really don't say failing, but we are hanging very precariously wherever it is that we are right now. And something significant needs to happen, because however the fiscal infrastructure you're going to put in place, if people do not feel safe and secure to move around and conduct businesses, then it's going to be very difficult for them to actually get the dividends and the benefits of whatever it is that you want to do. So I don't know how he's going to do it and what he's going to do and what the outcomes of these meetings would be, but I'm just hoping that eventually insecurity can become a thing of the past, and that we as Nigerians can move and transcend into newer climes where we can make reference to it and say, oh, this happened before, and it no longer happens anymore.
So what you're saying is if the president-elect or a new president can actually tackle the issue of security, then every other thing will fall into place?
For me, I think two things. If I were to advise the president-elect, and I hope that someone who has his listening ears actually listening to me, I'll tell him to do two things. Every other thing is secondary. First, there are two things. Curb insecurity and ensure that there's steady power in the country. Just do those two things. Because these two issues have a snowball effect on so many things in the economy, in the social and economic well-being of the citizens in the country. So if he can fix these two major issues. Then the next tenor, you can focus on other things. But these two major issues should actually be dealt with within the first tenor. That's what I think anyway.
All right, well, still talking about insecurity, it seems, with the elections over and cash now in circulation, the terrorists have actually,
resumed.
Have resumed. Exactly. And we have so many stories of, kidnaps and actually insecurity on the newspapers today. There's this one on front page of Daily Trust that says bandits kill 7 farmers, abduct 26 in Niger, pick 2 students at Varsity Hostel in Zamfara. Let's share your thoughts.
I heard about that, picking 2 students at university in Zamfara. And I've forgotten who tweeted this, who said, it's so funny. There's no more banditry. It's like the bandits went to vote and they took a holiday within February and March. And it sort of tells you that there's this popular pidgin English saying, if meat's lost for pot, monkey hand will stay inside house, stay inside that business. So you cannot tell us as politicians that you do not know who the major actors and players of this thing is. The Nigerian government showed us that they have advanced clandestine services that can actually uproot people after the NSAS protest. With how clinical they were able to track monies and follow it to the specific people who were at the fore of the NSAS protest. They've shown us that they can actually do that. That's competence. So to not be able to deploy that same technology and that same effort towards tackling the insecurity issue is somewhat of, I'm taken aback by that. So I've always said do not misconstrue nonchalance of Nigerian government for incompetence. So when competence is not put into right use, you begin to question the intent of governance in its entirety.
But even the army is actually saying that, Boko Haram and ISWAP is about to be annihilated in...
Is Boko Haram still really a thing? Because if you look at the death of Shekau that happened 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, 2021, I've been a bit scared about the uprising of ISWAP in the northeast, and what the Nigerian government is doing about that. Because these guys were able to do something you couldn't do. They were, according to the report, they were the ones who took out Shekau. Shekau killed himself after they raided the Boko Haram camp. And you still aren't scared. Like, to what extent, to what needs to happen for you to be able to sit up? Now, these guys have been a tad quiet. What are they doing? Are they really falling back? Is it as an effect of your forces, or are they planning or cooking something? These are the questions that we should need to ask ourselves, and that what Nigerians need response to from the security agencies in the country.
All right. Well, still talking about what the president-elect actually needs to do, getting stories or reports on pages of the newspapers, that he's trying to figure out how his team is going to look like. He's currently building his team right now. But one thing a lot of people actually say is that Nigerian leaders, they come into power and then that's when they start figuring things out, when they should have had a plan before it happens. A lot of people actually of the opinion that he should have had an idea of how his team was going to look like before he actually came into it.
I don't think he doesn't have an idea of how his team is going to look like.
Okay.
I'm sure he did.
There was a period of time that we actually, with a Nigerian president, that we spent months without.
Of course, that was 2015. With the outgoing president, there's no need to. It's public news. But I don't think Tinubu should have already had an idea. So many things you can say about Tinubu, but one thing that you can give him credit for is that he knows how to build a team around him of competent people, people who we know that, some of them you trust and you've worked with. Like, I think one of our former person here, who is with him currently, you can tell that he knows how to handpick the necessary hands that are needed to ensure that certain tasks are done. And we're going to want to trust him to do better. I've always said this to people after the elections. Political competition must give way for political reconciliation at this point. Some of us are displeased with the outcomes of the electoral process, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't wish him well. I hope he succeeds, because success for him is success for each and every one of us as Nigerians. I cannot pray that he fails, because we cannot have another 4 years of whatever it is that we have now. we need a better system. So I hope genuinely and pray that he succeeds and that he puts in place the necessary structures to ensure that Nigeria and Nigerians can lead better lives going forward.
All right, let's quickly take a look at City and Crime pages on Daily Trust newspaper 20 and 21. We have a few stories here that I will just pick. After 2 million naira ransom and new bike, bandits free family members, which is actually a good one because, you know, reports have actually been on this particular kidnapping for a while. We also have stop flouting traffic laws. Lagos warns security personnel. We have driver arraigned for killing 3 people in Ogun State. Policeman killed trying to resolve conflict in Niger. Oba Benin suspends chief. Man set ablaze over attempt to steal bike in the Federal Capital Territory. And talking about Edo communities get electricity after 2 years in darkness. These are some of the stories.
But I think I want to go back a little to the issue of traffic laws.
Okay.
I think it's very important for Nigerians to know that it is illegal for any of the, what do I call them now because there are so many, or any of the road safety agencies, VI or FRSC, to just stop you on the road unless you've actually flouted a particular traffic law. So if I'm not putting on my seatbelt, a VIO officer cannot just stop me and ask me for my papers. In fact, whenever it is any VIO officer stops me, I ask them, why are you stopping me? First question. I want to ask for your papers. No, but you cannot just do that. Is it that my brake lights were not working? My indicators were not working? I was not putting on my seatbelt? Did I run a red light? Because that's an illegal stop and search.
But they do that a lot in the
I know they do that a lot in the FCT. So I usually tell them, like, because there was a time that one actually did that and was trying to extort money from me. I said, no, I want you to arrest me. Take me to your office. I usually insist. But please arrest me and take me. Because why? A part of the work we do in the lab is road ethics training for FRSC, VIO officers, police officers. So when we take me to the office, then I'll talk to your bosses who we do trainings for, that this is why you stopped me. And because it's necessary. And then even we were looking forward to saying, okay, those ones who stand by the road, maybe those are the ones we need to call back again to do most of these trainings for, because it's something that happens so much and it's actually wrong. So I just want to put it out there, like, Nigerians should actually know that. So you can't just up and just stop me on the road and ask me for my papers. Whenever they do that to me, the first question I ask you is, why are you stopping me?
And so do you think the trainings are actually mistargeted? And instead of training the bosses that are in the office, why not train these guys that are actually interfacing with people?
It's actually something it's actually something we actually thought of. And for this year, for our road ethics training, we're going to actually focus more on those ones who stand by the roadside, just to make sure that they can actually get most of this knowledge. And the funny part of it is that for some of them, I think they know, but they just, because Nigeria can be a lawless country sometimes, so they just go ahead and do whatever it is that they like either ways.
Because they feel people are scared.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at the lead story on Punch newspaper, talking about the end of tenure. Buhari Oshibajo, 28 governors and ministers to begin asset declaration.
Very important. I think we, sometime between last year and this year, we're trying to work with the Code of Conduct Bureau on asset declaration and seeing how that will work, especially with the fact that the new Electoral Act actually mandates all aspiring politicians to declare their assets, and also mandates the political parties to ensure that they declare spending from the previous elections. Unfortunately, the only aspiring politician who did that was Shore. We're looking forward to a time where all aspiring politicians can actually do that. But then on the flip side, there's also a deliberate clampdown, in quotes, so to speak, that you can observe from the National Assembly to how the Code of Conduct Bureau is being treated. These people don't have their budget released. They don't have cash backing for their budget. There was a time when there and they didn't have a printer. That's how bad it is. So more needs to be done in terms of ensuring that that particular agency has the necessary resource to carry out its task and to be more efficient and effective. I don't know if the president-elect has actually gone ahead and done done his own asset declaration prior to his swearing in, owing to the fact that we're looking forward to May 29. But these are necessary steps that needs to be taken.
I hear that they're going to be given forms to do that, all the members.
Yeah. I think because it's very important for them to do that. It's part of the democratic process to ensure that there can be checks and balance about how much you got into office with and how much are you living.
But this lack of resources of the CCB, do you think it's actually you could relate it to why most of these asset declarations are really we're not getting what we require out of it?
I've always said that. Like I said earlier, it sounds like a deliberate clampdown from the National Assembly, because the CCB does not really answer to anybody per se, but the National Assembly has to approve its budget. And for how many years now they haven't.
Does that have to do with the act setting up the CCB itself?
Not really the act. What do you mean by the act setting?
I mean, like, what did the law backing the setting up of the CCB itself? So that where they get the allocation from, or where the money is.
The allocation is supposed to come from the National Assembly. I think it's supposed to come from surplus and some other places. I can't really remember, but it's supposed to come from those places for the Code of Conduct Bureau to be able to function. But they never get cash backing. While there's a budgetary allocation, cash backing for that budget usually doesn't come.
So where's the money?
Very good question. Very, very good question. Because that particular, it is the mother agency for anti-corruption in Nigeria, and yet the EFCC is more funded, the ICPC has more resources, but the CCB, it's a bit shaky. And they are supposed to operate on 12 codes, and this is just one code. Asset declaration is just one code of their 12 codes of operation, and they can't even get it right because of largely because of the lack of resources that they're actually facing in the Code of Conduct Bureau. So more needs to be done. We're looking at the possibility of actually working with them, but of course, with the polity changing governments, and what that would mean for appointments in different offices is also something we're looking at. So we want to be a tad careful, but we're looking at how possible it would be to empower the Code of Conduct Bureau to be able to do more with what they're doing. Maybe more or less like a government CSO relationship to see how we can upscale their impact.
All right, let's quickly take a look at this particular story. We all know the first quarter of 2023 has been rough on a lot of Nigerians, but despite that, investors made 1.6 trillion naira gains in the first quarter, and they actually made this, especially consumer good firms actually made a lot of money in the first quarter.
Nigerians are always ready to spend. We're a spending country. It is why for most European businesses or American businesses, however deplorable they want to say we are, they are always open to doing business here, because one, we have a market over 200 million, and not just a market, we have a market that is ready to buy at every single time. So we're always spending money in ostentative goods sometimes, and since we are not a producing nation, of course we're going to spend a lot of money on consumer goods as well. So, and with the rising inflation, despite the fact that we're all complaining inflation, people are still spending money in their millions and hundreds of thousands. So it's really not really that shocking if you look at the consumer behavior. If you study consumer behavior of Nigerians in the market, so that it's been a bit. Well, even despite that 1.something trillion, I'm still sure that it's not as much as they would have made if the cash crunch didn't happen, if the inflation didn't happen, if elections didn't happen, and all of that. I think that sort of also affected outcomes and output.
All right, well, so still talking about money and how it's been spent. There's a story here on the front page of the Punch newspaper that says Chinese loans rise by 209% under Buhari. Should we be worried?
See, if you know how loans work, to a small extent, I'm not going to speak to the technicality of it because I'm not a specialist. But if you know how loans work, while we say we should be worried, I would also say, because everybody is owing everybody.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the only problem I have with how we do our loans is that we take the loans and we embezzle it. Not spend it, we embezzle it.
Okay.
If we take the loans and then we invest in the country properly, effectively, the way we should, then it becomes easier. There's no country without a loan. everybody's own. US is the biggest OSF, so the biggest debtors in the world. But you just need to be able to decide how we're going to use this loan to ensure that there's judicious value for money whenever it is that happens. Now, the terms of the Chinese loans, I don't know, but international markets, I don't think there's really that much. I just hope that eventually, when we move into the next government, there should be increase in our foreign reserve. We should be able to increase our GDP as a country, especially with Dangote's refinery coming up. Hopefully, at least 2 of the 4 refineries we have in the country can be operational as well, just to cut that cost of exporting and importing back again. And also, since removal of 4 subsidies also still a strong conversation being had, maybe that would alleviate the rising cost of fuel eventually if the subsidy is removed, if we're actually reproducing within the country. So, yeah, I think the loans are something to be, if we look at loans as if I borrow money from you, when from country-like loans, they're not the same thing. They're completely different.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mukhtar, for analyzing the papers with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so that was Mukhtar Suleiman, a public affairs analyst with us in the studio. We'll take a break, and when we come back at the top of the hour, the show continues.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Good morning and thank you for joining us on Daybreak this beautiful morning. We one hour down. We have one more hour to go. It's the top of the hour. Thank you for staying tuned if you've been tuned in from the beginning of the show. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman.
All right, thanks for joining us. Top of the hour, 8 a.m. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
All right, a look at the highlights at this hour. Zamfara abduction. Bandits kidnapped 2 female Gusau University students.
Free trade zones generated 35.1 billion naira custom duty in 2021, according to NEPSA.
We also have Brendan Rogers, Graham Potter sacked from Leicester City, Chelsea.
All right, now the details. Suspected armed bandits have abducted 2 female students of the Federal University Gusau in Zamfara State after they broke into a rented hostel of the university. The armed criminals raided Sabangida village in Bungudu on Sunday, abducting the 2 female students of microbiology department of the university after breaking into a rented female hostel. This was after they overpowered and locked up 2 civilian guards, dispossessing them of their handsets. Spokesman of the State Police Command, SP Muhammad Shehu, said the police tactical team moved to the scene, but the hoodlums had already fled with the victims to a yet-to-be-identified destination. He said the Commissioner of Police had deployed reinforcements to complement the ongoing rescue operation.
All right, the Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority, NEPSA, says that the Free Trade Zones scheme generated a total of 35.1 billion naira for the government as customs duty in 2021. The authority said the sum of 408.3 million naira was also remitted as pay-as-you-earn taxes in 2021. Speaking in Abuja on Sunday, the Managing Director NEPSA, Professor Adesoji Adeshugba, said it ensured the effective generation of customs duty and administration of taxes applicable in zones operation. Section 19 of the NEPSA Act mandates FTZs, enterprises, to file returns for statistics and data, while Section 8 stipulates that enterprises operating in zones should be exempted from federal, state, and local government taxes. However, they are under obligation to pay all deferred taxes and duties when they extend their businesses to the customs authorities or territories. Now, the NEPSA boss further said that the scheme also generated a total of 19,125 employments in 2021.
And in sports, Leicester City have parted company with manager Brendan Rogers on Sunday as they look to maintain their Premier League status. In a club statement, the club's chairman said performances and results during the current season have been below shared expectations. The Foxes dropped into the relegation zone after conceding late to lose 2-1 at Crystal Palace on Saturday, which extended their winless run to 6 games. Rogers, who recently celebrated 4 years in charge at the King Power, delivered 2 top-5 finishes in the Premier League and the club's first ever FA Cup win in 2021, but left by mutual consent. Nigeria stars Wilfred Ndidi and Kelechi Iheanacho play for the Premier League side. Similarly, Chelsea have confirmed the sacking of manager Graham Potter after his side's loss to Aston Villa on Saturday. The news was confirmed by the club's official website on Sunday. The club in a statement said Chelsea would like to thank Graham for all his efforts and contribution and wish him well for the future. The loss to Aston Villa was Graham Potter's 11th defeat in 31 games since replacing Thomas Tuchel on the 8th of September.
All right, with that, we wrap up highlights at this hour. Let's take a look at some more stories. One common denominator around mechanic workshops is the number of abandoned vehicles found at these workshops. Now, although many are there for repairs, others have been fixed and have also been found to be abandoned by the owners to the extent that they become dilapidated and reduced to scraps. Jimmy Adzande visited the popular Kanshaw Market Mechanic Village in Makudi and files in this report.
To have vehicles to ease their movement, others had acquired some in the past, but for different reasons abandoned them at the mechanic villages, on the streets, office complexes or residential homes. Many blame the situation and the tough economic downturn in the country amongst other reasons.
Like one what they did for me, that motor was in Alidi for some time, and that man called me, I don't go and bring the vehicle for Alidi today. Since when I bring that car, come and park for this mechanic village, I don't see the man till more than 3-4 months, almost 5 months. I called them and I say, you don't have money to come and pay the car. If I have money, I will take care of the car. When I finish, I give you the bill. I know I was not having money to take care of the car until now. The car is still in the mechanic.
If you can see, many of them pack. Loser, I'm coming. 2-3 days, we can't feed them. So not be their fault that the way things be. Because the way things be, even if they pay salary, they will say no salary. Before the salary will come, they don't collect money left and right.
Okay. For the first reason, some are because of money, some like some of them, they leave the vehicle because they don't find it fast. Some it's because of money.
Sometimes people borrow their vehicle for repairs, and when we pieces it, we discover what is the problem. They will not have the money to change the parts, and that is why they abandon some of the vehicle in the site.
They also spoke of the challenge posed by the vehicles due to lack of space in the workshops and the security implications for abandoned cars.
Worry to talk to the man to come and carry the car out because it's blocking my shop. There's no vacancy to park all this kind of car, and I'm paying security money every time I want the car. All this, if you join them, then come, the man come like give an appeal, you think that maybe you are calling him money. All this security, this car, park, we need to pay for it.
Nothing I can do. If I tell them to come and push the car out, where there is no money, even the money to tow the car to their house, man, another problem. So there is nothing I can do. The best thing for me to do, they arranged them closer so that my shop can't close.
For others, the situation is made worse when the owners pass and leave their vehicles without period notification to mechanics or family members of the deceased. On the flip side, some view it as advertorial for workshops, which indicates expertise in fixing cars by the operators of the shops.
Now, health researchers say cervical cancer is 100% preventable, but it's claiming the lives of women and young girls daily, making it one of the greatest threats to women's health. To this end, the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research is encouraging young medical experts to come up with ideas that can address the problem. Victoria Tokulo sends us this report as presented from our studio.
Health researchers have said that cervical cancer is the second most common cancer among young girls and women in our society, and 12,000 women in Nigeria are diagnosed with the disease, and 8,000 die from it yearly. To put a stop to this end, global health experts, in collaboration with the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research have gathered young medical experts to train and help come up with ideas that will be acceptable for women and girls to be vaccinated and encourage women to go for screening that will support and bring solution to the disease among women and girls in the society. Speaking to journalists at the Young Expert Ideas Solution, the Director of Research at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, Professor Oliver Ezechi, aired his view on the causes of cervical cancer alongside Professor Juliet Ezepu, Principal Investigator for Girls and Women from St. Louis University, on why the need on young people ideas.
Find the cause of cervical cancer, and that's human papillomavirus. That's what causes virtually all cervical cancer. Once you vaccinate the young girls who are between 9 to 15 before they're exposed to that virus, you prevent them from having the virus. And for those ones who are already above, women who are already above that age, you screen them for cervical cancer. What it means is that we'll join other committee of nations to eliminate cervical cancer by 2030.
The goal is to make sure that there are no NGs anymore in Nigeria. We want to ensure that we work with Nigerian girls, with Nigerian women to end cervical cancer together. We can only do it with you leading the way, not the experts telling people what to do. Because there are many people doing screening, there are many people doing vaccination, but yet only 10% of girls have been, only 10% of women have been screened. Only 14% of girls have been vaccinated. Our goal is to change that, and we have to change that with Nigerian girls and Nigerian women leading the way.
The low use of cervical cancer prevention services among girls and women in Nigeria can be traced to several reasons. Dr. Okechukwu Unwachukwu from the Federal Ministry of Health in Nigeria aired his view on the reason alongside young experts on how they intend to drive the message to the society.
In taking steps to ensure that it is eliminated in Nigeria, starting from what we call primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention.
We're going to meet with the community leaders, and then with the help of the community leaders, we'll be able to gather these women. You know, we are sure and we all know how these unions work in the marketplace. There's usually a union of market women, they have their leaders. Once you're able to talk with their leaders and the leaders agree with whatever you have to say, they are able to talk with their people, and then by the time we're able to bring those people together, we have been taught, we have been enlightened, we have been sensitized about this cervical cancer, and we are simply going to replicate the same learning, the same thing that we've been taught to these women. We're just going to educate them as we have been taught.
However, researchers have stated that human papilloma virus vaccines have been found to reduce the risk of cervical cancer up to 90%.
The Arewa Consultative Forum is calling for the arrest and prosecution of anyone or persons found canvassing for interim government. The Northern Socio-Cultural Group also said that Nigerians will resist any attempt by individuals or groups to foist an interim government on the country. Chairman, Kwara State Chapter of the Forum, Dr. Muhammad Gali, made the position of the organization known during an interview with newsmen in Ilorin on the sideline of a Ramadan lecture. Dr. Gali added that the proponents of interim governments should be arrested and charged for treason, describing the attempt as the height of insubordination. He wondered why some few individuals will want to truncate democracy simply because they lost to the election.
It's very, very surprising that anybody will contest election and win in other region other than his own to that extent so comfortably. Nigeria has spoken. And we are speaking so loudly. It is so sad for anybody now to say that anyway, anybody, however highly placed, found advocating or supporting any interim government in any guise will be met with a very, very ferocious opposition, however highly placed, whoever the person is. And I can assure you that Nigerians are too loud in this direction. Anybody who does that should be arrested and prosecuted, because that is the height of for treason, because this is a height of insubordination for the country. We cannot, nobody will accept it.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has been told to expedite action in delivering key projects that will add value to the socio-economic well-being of Nigerians before he hands over to the next government on May 29th this year. Speaking exclusively to Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman, a public policy analyst, Dr. Hussein Tukur, lists such projects to include Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Highway, Second Niger Bridge, among others.
I expect the present administration, with some of the programs and projects it is carrying out, to precipitate and pursue them to the logical conclusion, especially projects that are nearing conclusion, especially infrastructure like the Kano-Kaduna-Abuja road, like the Second Niger Bridge and other projects. And there are also programs that are not projects, but they are programs that are being pursued. I also expect them to make sure that some of them are completed or about to be completed, so that immediately the next administration come in, it will easily conclude them.
All right, with that, we'll go on a break and we'll be back in a bit.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV's Daybreak this morning. Now, an unspecified number of people have been reportedly killed and hundreds of houses burnt when gunmen in the early hours of Sunday attacked Aloko, a community in Oganenigu ward of Tekina local government area of Kogi State. Now, residents said that the invading militia started shooting anyone in sight and set houses ablaze on arrival. Now, the ward chairman of the All Progressives Congress, James Ada, is said to be among those killed in the attack. Now, late Daily Trust Kogi State correspondent Tijani Labaran joins us for an update on the situation. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
All right. So, what's the situation currently in after that recent attack?
Yes, the keep more on that attack earlier on Sunday. So far, the result is calm as the men of the movement were deployed to that place, and the attacker had to retreat from their forces. So the situation is calm now as at yesterday night, and though they are tapping with the incident of refugees, because most of the Afghans are taking refuge in the neighboring communities. And so there's no much issue at this morning.
Okay, has there been a mobilization of security agents in the area?
Yes, the communities are putting it together to see what they can do to level down the hardship being orchestrated by the attack. And the government too has to move in and to see that the hardship is reduced to a certain level before they are able to be rehabilitated finally.
Okay, so this particular, crisis seems to be like age-long between both communities. What do you think is actually responsible for this particular clash, for the clashes between them?
The clash is actually, it boils down to some people in that community, maybe from the top of that area is an agrarian settlement that made up of 13 communities. So that place is rich, very economically rich, and so it appears some people are taking interest in that area. I think that's the area we look at it now.
Has there been any official statement from the government regarding this recent attack?
Yes, sir. Yesterday, the governor of the state, Alaye Bello, vowed to deal with the attackers. Say he will not bow to machinations of heartless elements in society, that he will go after them and bring them to book, while he communicated with the victims of the carnage.
Okay, so while the attack was going on, what did the dwellers actually do to protect themselves?
Ma?
While the attack was ongoing, what did the dwellers do to protect themselves?
Yes, what the attack was going on, I think that's the environment they have the glacier hunters. They were there first to ward off the attack of the invaders until the movement entered the community. So by the time the soldier came there from the report, a lot of havoc has been caused and a lot of injuries have been placed on the city. When the soldier came, based on the report, the invader is retreated.
Okay, now, according to reports, quite a number of people actually lost their lives, in the clash. Can you verify the number of casualties for us?
So far, the number is not certain. But apart from the notable, the ward chairman, James Ada, that was because he's the ward chairman of that place, APC ward chairman that was killed. So others are still picking their pieces as at yesterday. So there are no person can enter that enclave. So I bet to what we will be able to ascertain the number of the victims. But the number is not specific, but many died and houses were raised down.
So currently, what's the situation right now? Has calmness returned to the area, or are people still apprehensive that things might escalate?
Yes, sir. So that at this morning, when I make contact with that area, people are still packing because another incident erupted in a neighboring village called Itutepe. They say they got information that since Itutepe, the neighboring village is now assisting those that are the victim they are also moving in to attack them. So even that time, as I yesterday night, people are started packing towards Ayangba for their lives. So as at this morning, the situation is still tense. Though the men of the city are there and the hunters, the vigilantes and other security are there, but the residents are not so much convinced. So they are still watching what will happen, and maybe towards evening we'll get the proper picture of the area.
All right, so what's government actually doing to prevent a reoccurrence of this, and also to prevent a humanitarian crisis? Will there be IDPs set up around the communities?
Yes, the government has many agencies created to assist such communities. From the last episode that happened around 2017, which the governor was there, and he made pledges, and especially their road there, the road is so bad, terrible, that it's terrain that within the valleys, dot with valleys and mountains. So to even access that place, no easy. The government is trying to put up the road in a good shape so that there will be free movement of that area. And some other agents have been empowered to also reach to the community to assist in terms of emergency.
All right, so do we have any mobilization of maybe relief materials being sent to the people that have been affected or something like that?
Yes, after yesterday, there is this Kogi community police network that they have tasked their people, and I learned from their chairman that they are going to that place to drop some amount of money and some other materials, food, clothing, whatever. Because as at this morning, the news that some people are still staying on the road, so they were advising them to move to mosque and traffic so that they can have a temporary setup while assistance will be coming in. So that's the latest I had as at early this morning.
Okay.
All right. So earlier you said the people are really not feeling that confident about the current security situation with the vigilante and of course hunters that are actually there. But we did hear that there was a mobilization of soldiers or the military to the area. Do you think that will be able to calm tensions?
Yes, sir. Because from report from that area, the military went there. Immediately they heard that the men of the military are there, they retreated. So before the meeting entered the community, it was the Latin hunters and some people that were warding off the attack. But when the meeting came, they now retreated to their enclave. Because they say they came through Bata local government, the Daybreak local government, and they reached there with the use. So they say they pursued them to that Bata area after yesterday evening. So with the men of the meeting, that I see confidence in people that yes, the government is actually listening to them and they have come. But the cause of the shock now, people are not so much keen to lie now because piece of information coming is that the attackers are mobilizing to come to another plan to attack them, especially the community that are now assisting them. So based on that, now some of those communities now are also moving out to safer area.
Okay. All right. So what is the state governor actually saying about this particular incident? And do we expect him to visit with his entourage, to visit the place?
Yes, the state government, actually the governor is somebody that has zero tolerance for violence. Even when this happened in 2017, he personally entered that enclave. Therefore, there's no road. In our friend, I was there to constructing road to link up to the very area. Because that place is more or less a valley area. So there's no road there. The road network is terribly poor. So at this time again, as it happened, I think he will, from what I know of him, he will increase his forces, especially on the road network which he has started.
All right. Thank you so much, Tijani Labaran, for giving us an update on the situation in these communities. Thank you so much. We appreciate your analysis.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll take a quick break now, and when we return, the show continues.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV's Daybreak. Now we'll take a look at sports, where it's a period of decision by English Premier League club owners. Now, in quick succession, we saw two managers who were fired on this weekend after a series of poor results. Graham Potter left his role at Chelsea. Not too much surprise, and of course Brendan Rodgers was fired by Leicester after the club dropped into the relegation zone. Well, to help us analyze this and other stories happening in the Premier League regarding coaches and managerial changes, we have our very own sports producer and presenter talking about Adeni Ajishafe right here in the studio.
I've told you you'll be paying money for calling me, seriously.
Or you should be paying me.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
All right, so it's great to have you here. So let's jump straight into it. Brendan Rodgers got sacked as Leicester City manager. I think a lot of people saw that coming, but there was a point in time that we found out that Leicester couldn't afford to sack him. Does that mean they have money now that they are able to sack him?
Maybe they just have to let him go now because it seems
they're in the relegation zone.
Because nothing else to prove again. That's just let him leave. Just looking at the table right now, you see Leicester just ahead of Southampton. That shows that the battle is really for them to get out of relegation now. They just have to take that decision. It's hard for them, but they just have to do that. For Brendan Rodgers, I don't know. It seems what happened to Rafael Benitez is happening to him. I noticed that if you check, somebody that was at Liverpool, Benitez, to look at his career, is as if he's descending. Same thing is happening to Brendan Rodgers right now. Rodgers did well while he was in Liverpool, but getting to Leicester City, things turned around. It was as if what happened that the same Rodgers that was doing well in Liverpool is not actually getting his own mark at Leicester. But it's so painful because anytime I look at the Nigerians there, Ndidi and Iheanacho, you feel what's happening to Nigerian players? Why Southampton? Why Leicester? Why Everton? It will be, in fact, about 6 Nigerian players right now struggling to get out of relegation. Southampton, 3 Nigerians are there, or 2 thereabout, Onuachu, Aribo, and all that. And you look at Nottingham Forest, Awoni, Dennis. Look at Everton. Look at Leicester, 2 also. Right now, for Brendan Rodgers, Leicester, that marriage should have been separated for a while, or for, let's say for like 2-3 months ago. So he's coming late, and just how many matches to go? Whoever is going to take over now.
So you think this is not the right time to sack Brendan Rodgers?
Sacking them wouldn't, to me, is good that at least, okay, we really appreciate you need to go all that. But at times, when you look at it, it's just like, let's not go to Chelsea yet. But really, sacking him now is good. But in other way around, you look at...
Is there enough time to turn things around?
Who is coming to take over will be the one to bear the pain now. Because whatever happens now, people might just quickly forget about what Rodgers did, getting them down to number 19 on the table. Now the blame will be on the person taking over. Although record is there that after I took over.
Because at the end of the day, he's the one going to be relegated with the
team. With the team.
Okay, so while you're actually talking, I don't know why you're laughing, but while you're actually speaking, you talked about, Brendan, you're doing so well at a club and then coming to Leicester and not doing so well. Do you think is there a possibility that it might not necessarily be his fault? Because there's actually a report here that he said we needed help, but we didn't get it.
What kind of help?
Exactly.
Good. I think the help he was talking about there has to do with the management, giving them the right chance, money to buy
a lot of players, and they did not replace them.
You sold players, you didn't replace them. And there's no way you'll be able to get the result you want to get when you've sold most of the players that could have given you that particular lift. And you are looking for space to fill, and you couldn't get those players back. So that was what he was trying to talk about there. But if you want to allot the blame, all of them, the coach as the manager, as they call them there, the manager will have his own allotment of the blame. You have the players too. You have the management, the 3 of them. Even the fans at times, they share part of this this blame. But really, for Brendan Rodgers, Leicester, the players, the coach, the management, okay, the management now didn't give support as for buying players to replace those ones they sold. And then the player, they said, the one they now have, what were they doing? To say, okay, agreed, we can't get back this player. What can we do as a team? Then the manager himself, what went wrong? Oh, okay, maybe featuring this particular player, doing this, doing that. What do I need to do to get this team to winning ways? And he couldn't do it. So you see that each of the three wings, they have their blames to take. But it's just that if you want to allot, it's always bulky on the side of the coach or the manager, because you are the aim of the affairs there. That's it.
All right, so right now, what next for Leicester? Is there anybody else that is there somebody that
Well,
can bring in to do
actually,
a job?
before I got to the studio, I saw a very, I wouldn't call it funny anyway, that they could actually consider Graham Potter as an immediate replacement for Brenda Rogers. But I look at it, why Potter? Why going to Potter now?
Well, maybe
I'm talking about Leicester now.
Maybe
that
they
is
think,
just flat.
Exactly, but maybe they think that, I mean, like, Leicester is a better caliber team for Graham Potter as he is. Maybe
okay, because it was coming from Brighton.
Exactly.
I also saw Hasenhuttl. Okay. I saw Hasenhuttl. I saw Jesse March. Different names.
Well, what of Big Sam? Don't you think Big Sam?
Big Sam is always a rescuer when it comes to. He's always a rescuer. He's always there to rescue them. Some other guys is always very good in doing this. Maybe they can go for him, although he's been quiet for a while.
Exactly.
So they can look for anywhere Uncle Sam is. Come out from your hiding and let's see if he can give you this job. But really, Leicester needs to get someone who is bold enough to hold the steering wheel of that particular boss of Leicester. That, okay, this boss will not get out of my hand.
Do you think they'll be able to do a good job?
It is very. They can still get out of relegation if they are determined. The remaining matches, if they are able to win all.
What they did our very own Salis Yusuf to do a job.
I didn't hear what you mentioned. Actually, I saw one particular funny tweet like that when I went concerning the issue of the sack of Graham Potter, and somebody said, "Oh, these are the coaches aligned to replace Potter." They started mentioning Nagelsmann, mentioning Zidane, and the next thing I saw Salis Yusuf, Abdul Meitaba. I was like, what? Seriously.
We do hope there's a period of time where it will come where Nigerian coaches will be mentioned in the same breath with.
Of course, it's possible.
With those guys.
It's funny that on the other side of it, that's where they've been mentioned.
Exactly. That is quite unfortunate. So you opened the door right now for us to talk about Chelsea and Graham Potter. When Graham Potter was actually hired as Chelsea manager, a lot of people really did not find it exciting. I myself was one of those people, and I was waiting for a period of time whereby he will be sacked. Were you surprised?
Well, first of all, let me start the way you were pointing out at me. I'm not the one that actually appointed it.
Well, too bad I'm not a Chelsea fan.
But seriously, first of all, the management of Chelsea goofed, the hierarchy goofed by appointing Graham Potter. To be candid with ourselves, what were they thinking? Okay, because he was doing well in Brighton, then you think he has the ability to manage Chelsea. Chelsea and Brighton, they are not in the same.
Does he being English have anything to do with it?
They are not in the same level. Let's just be candid with ourselves.
Does being English have anything to do with it?
Because as an Englishman, how many Englishmen have actually won the EPL? How many? So you don't look at that. Don't be biased. Don't be sentimental. The hierarchy of Chelsea goofed by appointing. Is he Harry Potter? Graham Potter. First, that's the first mistake they made. Then you saw that this guy, if you check his record now, 39% winning rate, worst for a Chelsea manager. Check 31 matches. He won how many? 12. He drew 8. He lost 11. You check it. In fact, I remember Di Matteo. People were saying Di Matteo was one, but Di Matteo is still better off. Aside that, when this guy, just about 7 months now, right? Almost, it's not up to 7 yet, but immediately he started giving them number 10 jersey. From beginning, the handwriting was showing on the wall that this guy is not meant for this club. Like someone tweeted and said, the man will do juju for you. I hail him. Seriously.
To get that job.
Where did you get, how was he able to manage to stay on for more than 6 months? How?
Okay. So in as much as, we understand that Potter is actually not doing a good job. He didn't do a good job that led to his
For signing him in the first place, they goofed there.
But you can't underestimate, the relationship between the players and their manager.
Okay.
What's the reaction of the Chelsea players to his sack?
Oh, of course, you have a divided house. Some players will like him, some will be against him. Some that really wants to get better result will not be happy. We've seen situations whereby the dressing room is always into different wings now. Some are there for Potter. No, they shouldn't have sacked him, especially maybe some English players. You understand? Why some players will be like, no, he just have to go. He's done the worst. Let him leave. You understand? Why some will be like, okay, we are not here, we are not there. Whatever happens, whoever you are bringing. And now they said, let's see who they will be appointing to be the main coach afterwards. Having at least they have some backup managers.
What about the reaction of the fans? You know,
the fans are happy. Well, let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. Worldwide. I'm sure yesterday, just that the news came towards. It was late, right? In the night. It was. If there would be at afternoon during the afternoon, you will have seen jubilation. They were happy. Chelsea fans worldwide right now are still celebrating that finally don't come up. Let me use that Nigerian palace.
So now Nagelsmann, Antonio Conte, Mauricio Pochettino, Diego Simeone, Zinedine Zidane, these are names that have actually been thrown about when it comes to the Chelsea job. Who do you think can actually do a good job for them?
Let's just, for me right now, before I answer that question, let them even sail out of, because now they are standing 11 on the table. And for the caliber of club like Chelsea, who have not been there for how many years now, standing 11 is not where they always want to see themselves. So right now is for the team to even get themselves together and see how they can do what, how they can come up. Forget about the top 4 now. Just get out of that 11, number 10. The number 10 jersey they've been having for almost this season. For the question you're asking, all the names you mentioned, Nagelsmann, Conte, whoever, well, I think they should just calm down till the end of the season. After all, they say, okay, 2 guys are taking over, right? And wait till the end of the season. But do you think
those 2 guys can actually get them out of that number 10 jersey that you're talking about?
Well, they have put them already. They've put them already. But right now, they have between now and May to look out, calm down, and look out for, among these coaches, so painful that their former coach that have been the best to come back. Because 3 days ago, he was still talking that it was painful that he got booted out. Talking about Thomas Tuchel.
Thomas Tuchel, should he have been fired in the first place?
He should have been fired. I don't know. Like we say here in Nigeria, I don't know who did that. What happened to them that they sacked him and brought in. It was like as if they slept and woke up and said, okay, you just want to cancel
this club.
Just want to cause problem. You understand? You know that particular
I want problems always.
I want problem always.
Exactly.
Seriously, they want problem for themselves by sacking Thomas Tuchel and bringing in what's his name now?
Harry Potter.
Graham Potter, sorry. Because the magic that they thought he could bring after working that
maybe they thought it was Harry Potter. That was why they thought he could do the magic.
Yeah, because of that magic. Exactly. But it didn't work out.
It seems a lot of managers have actually been sacked this
12
season.
This season in EPL, 12.
Yeah, we actually have Scott Parker, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Nathan Jones, Thomas Tuchel, Bruno Lage, Ralph Hasenhüttl, Jesse Marsch, Patrick Vieira.
I just summarized for you now. 12.
Antonio Conte, Brendan Rodgers, and Graham Potter. But the thing is, I wanted to reel out the names so that we can see the caliber of managers that are currently unemployed right now. Exactly. Sign, right? They are currently unemployed right now as it is.
But believe you me, I don't know. I'm not saying Nagelsmann is not good, but I'm looking at, I hope his own won't be like, I remember Villas-Boas. You remember when they signed him?
Yeah, exactly, when he came in Chelsea. Yeah.
So, he's young, he's good, but his pattern is kind of something that you can easily read. That was what got him out. It's part of what got him out of Bayern.
So you think he was not ready for a big challenge like that?
I don't think he should be the right man for Chelsea. Right. I know he's good, but Chelsea should go for somebody. I don't know. Zinedine Zidane seems not to be ready for club football right now. He seems to be eyeing
Diego Simeone.
Simeone, well, maybe, but it's a rigid football. Atletico Madrid style, you bring it to Chelsea. But I think he will fit into.
I mean, like if Mourinho could do a job.
No, Mourinho shouldn't come back.
No, if Mourinho could do a job in Chelsea, I mean, like Simeone could do the same
Chelsea.
thing.
He's a no-nonsense coach.
Exactly.
He's someone that when he's there, it doesn't. He wants result. Yes, I'm sure. Maybe let's say towards that is if he's going to come. For Nagelsmann, well,
and he seems to be the front runner now.
Yes, but I'm looking at, will he be able to? English football is becoming so competitive, so competitive that aside the fact that the club you are managing, you want to give them result, the managers alone is like a mafia now. It's like, let me not use mafia, maybe cabal, because you have to break in for you to be among those top-rated coach or managers. Look at Jurgen Klopp. Guardiola, Arteta is already among them now. You look at Newcastle, They too, they are at least, they are standing tall of the law. Manchester United, they are there. You look at Tottenham Hotspur, though we don't know who they
They don't have a manager. They're managerless right now.
They are managerless or there. But really, you are pursuing two things. Pursuing record for your club, winning, also trying to see how you can outsmart other managers who are already making way or already they are established in EPL. And you look at the pace at which EPL moves, you need to be ready for it. Is Nagelsmann ready? You understand? As a German in Bayern, he was out, and now they brought in Tuchel, which Chelsea will have. If Chelsea had taken that advantage a month ago, they will have got their man back. He will have been happy to come back, and he will have done a great job. They slacked down, they slowed down, they were dragging feet before Bayern picked him up. And look at it.
All right, so well, we looked at the list of managers that were sacked this season, and looking at the table as it is right now, looking at recent performances, who do you think is next?
To be sacked?
Yes. Because I think we saw both Rodgers and Potter coming.
Southampton manager.
But he was brought in to do a job as well, just like Potter was brought in to do a job this season. Yeah.
Seriously, 12 managers sacked this season in EPL. That's really a big one.
But do you think that will be all? Do you expect more sackings?
This is almost ending. April, May is close. Maybe they want to see. Although a manager I'm looking at that should have been sacked, that should have been West Ham. David Moyes, but he won
yeah,
game.
Well, David Moyes is having a topsy-turvy
the message that came out was that, okay, if he should lose that game, he's going. And he won. That's a way players can actually help you and save your job. Maybe David Moyes and the player, they have good pacts, they have that good relationship. Okay, let's play for our coach. Let's win for him. Let's do this just to save his job. They are still saving his job, but believe you me, that's another manager I'm looking at.
So you think he's next?
And this man, is it Bournemouth? Yes.
Yeah, Bournemouth.
Watch out for Bournemouth manager too.
Yeah, but they won. They're also having a topsy-turvy season. Well, sometimes, but just like you said, I mean, like, is it? Can anybody salvage a situation right now? I mean, like when you're down there,
it will be very difficult because right now this season is almost ending. Match day 29.
Exactly.
How many matches to go? We just have 10 or thereabouts.
So you just let whoever it is just go down with the ship.
You have 9 matches to go.
You let anybody go down with the ship.
9 matches. If no matter how you want to play, you can only get how many points, and it's very difficult because right now the point between from 12 down to 20 is close. So it's like you are all swimming in a pool, and who grab the rope first will be the one to be saved. So you look at all of them striving hard to get that opportunity.
Just before we wrap up, some are actually saying that Rodgers was not sacked, that he quit.
Either he quit. I saw either he quit or Chelsea also said he departed, right? Quit, departed. They are no longer there.
Mutual consent.
Mutual consent. You know, that's a way that you have to coin. You know, in journalism, that's a way you coin words just to suit so that it will look like
just to cushion the effect.
Because you look at, okay, what would this one? If this particular one word can cause war, just a word. In fact, a letter, not even word, a letter. So they're trying to all this. It wasn't sacked, but is he still at Leicester?
No, definitely.
What about your brother?
The bottom line is he's not here. The bottom line is he's not here.
Is he still there? The magic man.
Graham Potter.
He's your brother with the white beard now. You guys are.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Adeni Ajishafe, for coming on the show this morning. Yeah, you should pay me.
I will.
Really. For coming on the show and, of course, giving us the analysis of all this. We'll keep an eye on the Premier League and, of course, see who goes next. Maybe David Moyes, as you said, or maybe Ten Hag.
Next?
Maybe
it's you.
All right, for more in-depth analysis about sports and everything in between, join us at 10 a.m. for 360 Sports with, of course, Adeni Ajishafe right here on Trust TV. And this is how we're going to wrap it up on today's Daybreak right here on Trust TV. Hoping you had a wonderful time being with us. If you did, well, let's do it all again tomorrow. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
And I'm Darshan Hussein Usman. Have a wonderful week ahead.